Hello, everybody. It's another episode of Diabetes 180 live. And you'll probably see that I am not with Barbara O'Neill and Jacqueline today. That's because they had to reschedule, unfortunately, but will be joining us at a later episode. We're going to still keep the same topic, healing the mind, because that's obviously what we advertised, and that's what we want to talk about. The good thing is I always come prepared. So things happen last minute, and they had something that called their attention. As you know, Miss O'Neill and Jacqueline are very busy people, so just getting them on the channel twice in 1 month, that was nice. So we'll have them on a different episode, of course, another week, but I'll obviously let you guys know in advance when she'll be on. The topic will be the same, healing the mind. So I hope you're here to learn about how we can do just that. This won't be a long live. We try not to keep any of our lives longer than 30 minutes. Some run to 15 to 20 minutes. So because I was planning on the majority of our presentation being done by Miss O'Neill, it might be running a little short, but I do have some powerful things to share, and I want you guys to open up and share with me as well. I'm hoping that we are here because we all want to heal our minds. We all want the power, the life change, the transformation that comes from a healthy mind. And it's one of the tenets of Diabetes 180 that we believe strongly that our body, our spirit, and our mind are all connected. And to heal one, you have to heal them all. They're all connected, right? We spend a lot of time on the body, on the science behind diabetes reversal and proper nutrition. But how many times do we neglect this right here, the most important organ? So as you guys are watching, if you're watching for the first time, I'd love to know who you are, where you're watching from. So go ahead and jump in that chat. Let us know where you're watching from, what your name is. We'd love to greet you. Of course, if you're a long-time visitor, if you've been with Diabetes 180 for a while and you've been watching our lives every Monday, I thank you. And I, of course, feel free to say hello. Sophia, hello from Kennesaw, Georgia. All right. So I'll be able to see your comments. You may not be able to see other people's comments because we stream on multiple platforms. But if you have questions or comments about this topic tonight, let's grow and learn together, right? I hope that's a desire of all of us, to learn and grow together. And after this live is over, I'll share an awesome opportunity for us to join a personal and very private community of like-minded believers, people who believe in the power of healing naturally through the Diabetes 180 community that will be opening its doors soon, okay? Antoinette, hello from North Carolina. All right, we got North Carolina in the house. We got Georgia in the house. Who else in the house tonight? Let us know. So today's topic, the mind, I think it's something that's very important to me and means a lot to me because I've done a lot of mental work. I've experienced a lot of character building. I could say everything I've accomplished in my life, thanks to God, has been because of what he's taught me about the mind, right? And how many of you know that the mind is the seat of all behavior change? So a lot of us, we get stuck on trying to change our behaviors and failing, right? How many of us have tried to change some aspect of our diet, our daily schedule, our relationships, right? And we find ourselves in a cycle, repeating, the same thing. Maybe you do well for a few days and then you fall off the wagon, right? Two hands up, right? I mean, we've all been there, I'm sure. All of us can relate to the cycle of trying and failing, of knowing and doing. They call this the knowledge action gap, right? The reason I believe many of us fail to reach our health goals, our life goals, our relationship goals, whatever it is because we're focusing on the wrong thing. We're focusing on changing the behavior when our effort should really be on changing our minds, on empowering and developing this organ right here. You could change behaviors through grit and will and just force of will. You could really do well for a time, but eventually you go into fatigue, right? How many of you guys have experienced that? You do well and eventually you burn out, right? But if you are able to develop your mind, right, the right mind, and that takes time. This is why I tell people who come through our program, it takes time. You're not going to be able to change your mind in the way you need to overnight, right? The negative behaviors that we have come accustomed to didn't develop overnight, and they're not going to go away overnight. But if we do the work, and then we're going to talk about this tonight, some very practical things we can do to develop this very important organ. And I hope you guys watch until the end. I won't keep you long, I promise. Joan, greetings from Boston, Massachusetts, and Miramar. Hope I'm saying your name right. Watching this from San Diego, California. Oh, right. I don't know if we had San Diego before. That's awesome. So feel free to share. This is, again, a live. We do this live for a reason. I could have just recorded myself talking, right? And you could have watched that, but this is live so we can talk to each other. So the mind is something that is so important to develop. I always want to start out with this thought. I know we have different various beliefs. Maybe we have people who are Christian or agnostic, atheist. Many of you have a faith background, though. But I personally believe that we are created in God's image, right? And if we are created in God's image, what does that really mean, right? Man, I don't know if any of you guys believe the same, that you're created in the image of God. But what does that mean to you? What does it mean to be created in the image of God, right? When I ask that, I get a lot of answers, but I'm curious to know, what do you guys think when you think created in the image of God? What does that really mean? Okay. Of course, I'll explain what I think. And I think I'm right. But, it can mean more than one thing, obviously. But one of the biggest things you have to realize is what makes God God, right? And would you agree that what makes God God is his title of creator? His ability to create makes him God, right? The fact that that God is the only one in the whole universe that can speak things into existence. Okay, and please bear with me if you are a non-believer. We're going to still talk about a lot of practical things, very spiritual, but still practical, that you can connect with. But when you think about the idea of a creator, that we are made in the image of, would it make sense that we also can create? Right? Would you guys agree with that? That if we are made in the image of a creator, and he says, I make you like me, we are also little creators, right? So the question we have to ask ourselves is, from what do we create? How do we create things, right? Obviously with our hands and our feet, and we can fashion, mold, and create some wonderful things. But where does creation begin, guys? Where does all creation begin? I want to hear something from you guys. You guys are quiet. Let me know you're listening. From where do we create? Where do we create? Okay. God, the creator, they call him ex nihilo, meaning creating something out of nothing. He saw the world fashioned and formed it with the words of his mouth, right? Where do we create? How do we create? All right, many of you guys are saying you agree and also believe in the concept of a creator being made in his image. As awesome, but maybe you guys are still thinking about the question, where do we create from? Would you agree that we create? Joan says it right there. I guess you were the first to punch. Sometimes there's a delay. I have to remember there's a delay between my questions and you guys getting it because of the internet lag, but. Joan says thoughts. Antoinette says mind and heart. Miramar says we create from our minds. And it's interesting, a lot of people say hearts, minds. Did you know that they're basically the same thing? When you think about when I say I love you with all my heart, really it's my mind that I'm talking about, right? It's still, we feel it here, but where it experiences is how our mind is connected to our heart, right? So it is from our mind that we create. It is from our mind. Now think about this logically. If we create from our mind, right, that's powerful, right? Everything you think, you see and feel and touch was a thought first. Someone thought about the concept of a table before a table was a table. Okay, we had to design it in our mind and think about anything you create is in your mind. Just a thought example or practice example of how we create with our minds, and how it's a lot easier to create than to destroy. If I ask you not to think about something, what happens? Your body produces an image and your mind produces an image, right? You can't not create. If I told you, everybody watching here, don't think of a pig, do not think of a pig. What is your mind creating? An image of a pig, right? Your mind can't help but create. So if we are thinking negative thoughts or we are thinking negatively, we are creating negativity or negative lives. If we are thinking positive thoughts, what are we creating? Positivity and positive lives. Your life is a manifestation of your mind. What you think is what you create eventually, right? Yeah, Elaine's saying, yeah, our hearts felt it first, then our minds. Of course, you could say that, feelings can also influence the mind. That's for sure. It can go both ways. I agree with you that you can have feelings that influence your mind, but very often, actually, it's your mind that influences your feelings. There's a lot of subconscious thoughts that are going on, and we're going to talk about this now briefly, that we have two states of mind. I want to go to a screen here now, okay? And this is where we're going to really go deep into our lecture. So we have to, going from the idea of creating with our thoughts, our minds, our life is created as a result of what's in our mind. There's essentially two types of mindsets. I want you all to ask yourself, which one do you have? A fixed mindset or a growth mindset? Now, I'll be the first to say that you can have a mixture of both. I know myself growing up, vast majority of the time of my adolescence and teen years, I had a very fixed mindset. By God's grace, I've developed more of a growth mindset, but I still have aspects of fixed mindset. So looking at these thought bubbles or these heads, I want you guys to read this. I don't know if you guys are seeing this well. That's why I try to make the screen bigger. A fixed mindset is a mindset that is, just like the word says, it's fixed, it's stuck. And we're going to talk about how we got there to begin with. I don't know if you guys have any ideas of how does one develop a fixed mindset. How did you develop a fixed mindset? Was it just genetically prone to being fixed? A fixed mindset is one that says, I'm either good at it or I'm not. It's a type of thinking that says, I will never succeed, right? If I try something once and I fail, it's because that's not for me, right? If I try to do 10 push-ups and I stop at 2, I can't do push-ups. It's not in my anatomy, right? I will try. I know I will fail because I failed before, right? These thought processes, I don't know if you guys are connecting with them, but I know myself, I'm still burdened sometimes with these thoughts. It is easier to give up now before I embarrass myself. Anyone ever had that thought? Feedback and criticism are personal. When people criticize me, I take it personally. I don't know if I'm just talking to myself. Am I the only one that ever felt that way? When I'm frustrated, I give up. These are negative thoughts. Would you agree? These are very negative thoughts that fix you in the present state of being that you're in. It's almost like I am who I am and I cannot change. That's why it's a fixed mindset. Many of us are in fixed lives, fixed behaviors, fixed habits, fixed addictions, because we have a fixed mindset. And we're going to talk about how to grow out of that. A growth mindset is different, right? And you can have, again, variations of both. A growth mindset is the opposite. A growth mindset realizes no matter where I am right now, I can grow, I can change. Reading from the top to the bottom, challenges are an opportunity to grow. I like to try new things. I'm inspired by the success of others, right? I like to be around other people who made it because that reminds me that I can make it too, right? I might succeed next time. I might be failing right now. I might have failed 10 times, but I know eventually if I keep going, I'm going to succeed, right? I can learn to do anything I want to do. My effort and attitude my effort and attitude determine my abilities, right? A lot of times we think our abilities are what determine our success, but how many of us believe that it's our effort and our attitude that determines what we're able to do, right? What we bring to the table. Do you guys see the difference here? I don't know if any of you guys, if this is hitting home for you guys, the difference between a growth mindset and a fixed mindset. I want us to just pause for a moment and ask yourself, which one do you have? Which one are you leaning towards more than one and more than another? Maybe you have both, but some aspects of your life you might be fixed, where others, are experiencing growth. And I want to challenge you to ask yourself, where did this come from? Where did this start? Because many of us have fixed areas of our life because of trauma. It's because it's a defense mechanism that is actually the result of circumstances or experiences that didn't turn your way. How many of you guys are familiar with the amygdala? The amygdala is a almond shaped pair of structure that's right in the temporal lobe of the brain. So the amygdala. Do you guys know what that part of your brain is responsible for? And for time's sake, I might just go into an answer, but the part of our brain that is responsible for anxiety, fear, it's the fight or flight complex, right? It starts in this small almond-shaped center organ or structure that sits almost in the center of our brain, right? Um, and whenever you feel anxious or stressed, what happens is, and I'll go to our slide here, this tiny organ has so much power, right? As a response to stressful situations or a stressful environment or a traumatic event, it sends hormones to, and I'll go to the screen so we can all follow the hypothalamus. That's another part of our brain that is basically the master control center when it comes to hormones. And this hormone, this master control center, being triggered by the amygdala, now sends hormones throughout your whole body as a response. And have you guys heard of the term sympathetic nervous system, right? The sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight complex that gets you tensed and your muscles taut, gets your heart racing, your blood pressure rising, and gets you ready to run or fight, right? And over time, as you experience stresses in your life, I was surprised to learn this, that part of your brain actually grows or it becomes hyperactive. And you can imagine how this damages almost every organ in our body as these hormones have an effect on every organ of our body, from bones to breast tissue to reproductive organs to our thyroid gland that controls our metabolism, our digestion, our ability to absorb nutrients, our ability to fight infections, our adrenal glands that controls our blood pressure, right? And as all these hormones are activated by this tiny center in our brain, right? We develop, I would say, a fixed mindset, a mindset that's focused on survival, right? Now we are surviving instead of thriving. We are living in a state of almost, I would say, animalistic nature, right? What differentiates us between the animals around us and man? I know you guys are familiar with Homo sapiens. The term Homo sapiens means thinking man, right? What makes me different than an animal is my ability to use my frontal lobe to think. But over time, as we are constantly bombarded by stressors, guess what happens? The animalistic part of our brain gets overdeveloped, and the part that makes us man, the parts that makes us like God, it actually shrinks. As we go through life traumas and stressful events, if we don't have healthy ways to cope with these guys, you know what happens, guys? The frontal lobe literally shrinks. The gray matter, within the frontal lobe that's responsible for higher learning and thinking and strategizing and planning, it actually shrinks, and your body gets into a state of survival. Now, every time you're at a traffic light, you have that same anxiety and stress. And when you're standing in a long line, or you don't get your way at work, you don't get that promotion, or things aren't going your way today, your body can go through these levels of anxiety and stress as hormones flood your body and becomes the norm, a normal response that you're now living to survive. You're living to survive instead of thrive. Am I connecting with anybody? I hope this makes sense. Um, Reading the comments here, Sophia says, yeah, a little bit of both. Me too, for sure. Antoinette says, I'm guilty of a couple on the negative fixed mindset side, but growth is where I am now. Awesome. Glad to hear that. And rating stress is super intense lately. It didn't used to bother me. For some reason is getting No, I'm getting to notice it as I get older. Yeah. But let's talk about some solutions, guys. I always want to give hope on diabetes 1. I don't like just talking about problems. How can we solve them? How can we go from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset? How can we develop that frontal lobe that God has given us to overcome these bad behaviors and these survival instincts, right? I'm sure you guys are practicing some of these. I want to hear from you what you guys are doing of the list I'm going to go through. Okay. But there are some things we can do, right? There are some things we can do. And these steps that I'm going through actually have been proven to decrease the amygdala activity, actually decrease its activity, and also almost at sometimes its size. Okay. Forest bathing. Have you ever guys? Yeah, Sophia. That's the first one. Pray. Absolutely. Prayers is so powerful. Um, One thing you can do, especially, is pray outside. But going outside, there's a term called forest bathing. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of this term. I only heard it a few months ago. Forest bathing, but it's basically just going outside or a garden, anywhere where there's greenery, and experiencing the peace and anxiety that comes from being outside. So there's actually been studies that show that when we go out to a forest, and if you're living in a city, you can just go to your local park and get a similar results. But when you go outside and bathe in the forest or bathe in the trees, there's so many benefits. Not only are you activating the parasympathetic nervous system, so we have our sympathetic nervous system, which activates the fight or flight instincts, right, or response. The parasympathetic is the opposite. It's a part of our body that gets us to relax and calm down, right? And studies show that whenever you're outside in nature, you're activating that parasympathetic system. You're actually getting into relaxation and calmness. And actually, what happens is cortisol stress levels start to drop. This is so powerful. No, guys, this is amazing. This is so powerful that studies show that when you think about being outside, stress levels go down. Did you? When I read that study, I was like, "Wow!" Just closing your eyes and visualizing being outside in nature is enough to drop your stress levels, right? Not only that, but natural killer cells, the cells in our body that are responsible for fighting infection, actually go up, increasing in activity and strength when you're outside. So your immune system boosts, your cortisol levels drop, your parasympathetic system is activated, your amygdala starts to shrink, right? You get out of that fight or flight mode, and now you're experiencing growth in the right part of your brain. Forest bathing is the first thing we need to put on our list. If you guys aren't doing this, please start. Okay, Jazzy, I hear you suffering from debilitating anxiety and panic attacks. I'm praying for you. I'm praying for you. The second thing that's really important is deep breathing, right? And guess where you can do this? Outside, right? Outside. So let's go outside for a moment. I want to practice this for a moment now. Okay, so one method that I teach patients is the 4-7-8 method. So you're going to breathe in for 4 seconds, hold it for 7 seconds, and exhale for 8 seconds. 4-7-8, and you're going to experience how this feels, and I'll explain some science behind it. Okay, so let's just pause for a moment. You guys ready? We're going to do this together. Let's pause for a moment and close our eyes and imagine being outside like this gentleman here, and breathe in for 4 seconds, hold it for 7 seconds, and breathe out for 8. And tell me you don't feel better. All right, let's go. Again, for 4 seconds, breathe in. I don't know. I feel good already. And guess what? This is free. You can breathe in, inhaling through your nostrils and out through your nostrils and mouth for free, right? Many of us maybe have access to a park that you can walk through for free. This is medicine, guys, that God has given us, and it's free of charge. Why are we not taking advantage of it? All of us can do deep breathing. All of us can, every time you're stressed or an anxiety inducing moment, and even if you're not feeling stressed, we need to be practicing deep breathing. Okay. Um, Visualization. Okay, and we're going pretty quickly through these things because I always say I don't want to go longer than 30 minutes, and we're at the 25-minute mark. But visualization, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. And then we got guys familiar with that verse. This is so powerful. Visualization is when you actually take yourself through the steps, step by step, and seeing yourself win at whatever it is you're trying to win at. So for me, of course, my goal in life is to be able to help people reverse diabetes on a global scale, right? I want people to be able to know that diabetes can be reversed and you don't have to live with it. So I visualize that every day. I visualize myself teaching and educating and people giving their testimonies. And as I do this, I see it come to light. I actually see what my mind is creating, visualizing in my mind. I see it happening, right? I see people coming back to me and telling me that what I'm visualizing is coming true. Because as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Whatever it is that you are stuck with, right? Whatever, visualize yourself being unstuck. And even on just a more practical level, like let's say you have something, an event that you're anxious about. A lot of us are anxious about maybe public speaking. Just visualize yourself going up there on the and wowing the crowd with your presentation, right? Then when you're at the podium, you've already been there, right? Winning. So this is a powerful step, guys. I don't know if you guys are practicing visualization, actually seeing yourself win. It's powerful, very powerful. But we're going through, and I can always give you guys these in a listed form if you request that. Just message me online. Mindfulness. This is one of my favorite steps to heal the mind. Mindfulness is powerful because most of us, and this is actually a Harvard University study. Most of us, within 47% of our time, when of our waking hours, we are spending time thinking about the past or worrying about the future. Half of your day, some of us more than half of our day, is not spent on what we're doing at the moment. Whether we're washing dishes or driving the car, our mind is wandering, ruminating on the past and the present, right? Past and the future, but not living in the present. Mindfulness is the practice of being mindful of where you are now. And this is something we actually have a lot of lectures on in our program, the practice of mindfulness and being aware, hyper aware of where you are in time. This is a great way to take yourself out of the fixed state and go into a growth state. Gratitude journaling is second to last one. I think there's one more. Yep. Gratitude journaling is huge. I don't know if any of you guys do that, but just taking the journal and writing down what you are grateful for. And you'll be surprised how many things there are. I mean, today, I'd be the first to say that there's so many things in society going on right now to be anxious and worried and scared and feared and in fear of. But if we sit down and write down all that we have to be grateful for, I think we'll be surprised. Would you? Um, Gratitude journaling, another free way to heal your mind, right? Many of us spend thousands and thousands of dollars on psychologists and psychiatrists and medications, right? And I'm not against any of these, right? I'm a physician assistant. I prescribe some of these medications, but how many of us are availing ourselves of this free medicine, right? Self-affirmation is another medicine that is huge. Self-affirmation, a lot of us think of self-affirmation meaning, I say something good about myself, right? But it really should be pointed. It should be something that's very direct. Self-affirmation is about taking something that you think is negative about you and thinking of a positive aspect of that behavior or characteristic. Example I'm going to give of myself is like I used to always be self-conscious on how slow I was or am. I'm still pretty slow when it comes to doing certain tasks. When there's an exam, for example, I'll be the last to finish, right? Or some instructional guide where I had to go through step A to B, or putting together something. I'm usually pretty slow when it comes to doing things, and that you always made me really feel self-conscious. I really felt like, man, I must be slow, right? And that's what made me, for a lot of years of my life, feel like I couldn't really win or accomplish things like other people did until I realized the self-affirmation, right? The fact that I am slower at doing things makes it so that I have less mistakes when I'm done. Usually when I get something done, I understand it better than other people because I've taken myself through each step to understand. I like to understand things, not just swallow them. That's why I take a little longer to finish tasks. You see what I did there? Things that are negative about you can very well be good, right? Even if it's a body characteristic. Let's say you don't like your fat back, and everyone talks about the fat back, right? What about being grateful that you have a back that can bear weight? You know how people be grateful for the fact that they can actually get up and get going and bear their body weight, that they actually can go through an exercise or a day of work. Be grateful that you have a back strong enough to bear the burden of life. Right? You see what I did there? Take something that you think you're obsessing about, something that you're anxious about, or don't like about yourself, and try to think something positive in that and about that characteristic or behavior. Okay. Self-affirmation is huge. This is how we go from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset, right? This is how we do it. This is the way, right? That's the steps I want to encourage you guys to take. And what's nice is that studies have shown that all the steps I've gone through, guess what they do? They shrink your amygdala. They actually shrink it, and they activate what's called, especially the deep breathing exercises, they activate the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is actually the longest nerve in the body, one of the longest nerves in the body that connects your brain to the organs of within your chest and abdomen, right? It's what stimulates the parasympathetic system. It's what's getting you into relaxation mode, right? When we're doing our deep breathing and doing these exercises, we are literally healing our mind. We are making ourselves mold more into how God designed and created us, to have a mind to grow and create good things and not be fixed in negative behaviors and patterns. That's all I'll have for the night, but I want to share with you an opportunity to join the Diabetes 180 community. It's actually a waiting list, so we haven't opened the doors yet, but you could be the first to join. First, let me read Aileen's comment here. Aileen says, I'm really starting to see how powerful words and belief are. It's amazing how much they can shape the mind and body. I agree with you. Amen. So this is actually what I like to share as an opportunity for tonight. If you guys want to scan this QR code, I'm also going to put the link to the Diabetes 180 community in the chat room. So this would be something that's going to be launching within the next few weeks, right? It's in the chat, so check the chat or scan this QR code. Within this community, what we're trying to do is be stronger together, because isolated we will be, and alone we will be finding it very hard to overcome our food addictions, our bad behaviors, right? To find victory over chronic illness when we're doing it alone, because there's so many factors against us, right? The stress of society, the powerful food industry that bombards us with its advertising, right? The hyper palatable foods that hijack our dopamine receptors. So coming together in this community is a way for us to band together, to be stronger together with like-minded individuals who don't want to suffer from chronic illness. Our emphasis is diabetes, but we emphasize all chronic illnesses that can be healed with lifestyle changes. And that's what we aim to do with this community. So scan the QR code. You'll see you'll get an email that sends you once you put the email in, it'll send you the benefits of the community and give you an opportunity to be among the first to join. So I hope you guys enjoy. I'm really excited about this community. It's something I've been thinking and praying about for years. Many of you know that I still do private coaching, but this community has been something God has been putting on my heart to create. And I hope that you guys can be a part of that community. Okay. So scan the code. We'll send you an email. Make sure you check out that email, check your spam, make sure it didn't go to spam. And we'll make sure that we stand stronger together, right? It's always been my prayer as I end these lives that we may prosper and be in good health, even as our soul prospers. We'll see you next week, same time.